Hey everyone, my name is Jacob Wuwert. I'm with the National Sports Media Association. I'm here with Mr. Evan Bland from Nebraska, and he is one of the winners for sports writers in Nebraska. Congratulations on the award. How do you feel about winning this award?
Yeah, I mean, I've been joking with people. They either made a mistake or they ran out of people to give it to. But no, I mean, it's really cool. It's this type of award that I didn't get into the business to achieve. I honestly don't think a lot about that kind of stuff, but to be recognized by my peers and hopefully the readers as well is a really cool honor. And like I think in this business there are so many talented people. Uh, there is, I think it speaks loudly when you gain the trust of people to tell that you can tell their stories. And so, having had the chance to do that in my career and this past year, it's really honoring and humbling. So that's, I suppose, really where I come down. Especially, I know within the state of Nebraska, there are so many talented writers that to be chosen among that group is really cool, something I didn't expect. And yeah, really enjoying the moment.
Awesome. How did you first get started, or like what was your first job here in this business?
Well, I got into it in college. I didn't expect to go into sports writing. I wanted to be a radio broadcaster, but at the time at the University of Nebraska, freshmen couldn't do radio. And so I had an older student say, they'll pay you to write about sports for the student newspaper. And that blew me away because I would have paid them to have the chance to do that. And so that's how I got into it, but made relationships with folks at the Omaha World-Herald and was able to
Hmm.
connect with them. I think my very first story as a stringer in 2008 was a high school boys soccer game. The wind was gusting one direction. It was just a ridiculous game. But to see my byline in the paper the next day was a really cool deal. And
Hmm.
since then, had the privilege to do high school sports and for the paper for about 8 years, and then Nebraska athletics for the last six. But it's I always feel like it's as much about the people as it is about the sports and things like that. So even though maybe the scores and some of those things get fuzzy as the years go on, the stories of personal triumph or tragedy or quirkiness, that's the stuff that really resonates. So I think that's probably the most rewarding part.
Awesome. Good stuff. So, what do you think separates you from the pack of sports writers in Nebraska for this award?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, I like I said, I'm honored to have been considered in that final group. I guess I feel like everybody sort of has a little bit of a specialty. I guess I've considered myself a decent writer, but where I really try to find separation, I suppose, would be on the front side with the preparation, the research for a given story, and then the interview. I always feel like if I'm going to sit down to write a story and it's a struggle, it's usually because I haven't reported it out well enough through facts or through that interaction with a source or multiple sources. So I guess I just feel like if I'm observing, if I'm researching, if I'm interviewing at a high level, then that shows up in the writing and I don't have to cover that up with fancy prose or whatever it
Mhm.
might be. So I suppose that's what it would just be really investing on the front end and hoping that shows up in the writing on the backside.
Awesome. How did you get to where you are now with the Omaha Herald?
Well, like I said, I made a relationship with them in college and they had an opening as a high school preps writer in 2009, excuse me. And so I spent 8 years doing that, building my own sources, being the only person at a post game event, whatever it might be, taking my own stats so that when the opportunity opened up to cover Nebraska athletics, and specifically I do football and baseball for the most part, I felt like I had found a solid foundation, sort of like being in the minor leagues and being called up,
Yeah.
been able to hone my skills and sort of find my voice. Whereas I think it's more of a challenge, especially in today's climate, if you start at a major college because you are in a group and you just haven't had that experience of building sources or reporting sort of outside the mainstream availabilities and things like that. So it's just sort of been a gradual rise, I suppose, and it's been rewarding to be here. The fan base in Nebraska is rabid. The people are always interested in what's going on with Nebraska sports. So to have a voice in helping them keep up with their team has been a real pleasure. But yeah, it's been sort of a rise from covering stuff that really just maybe parents and family care about to now you're talking about, millions of people probably around the world who follow Nebraska sports.
Awesome. What inspired you to go down this path of being a sports writer?
Well, I guess I just wanted to be around sports. I enjoyed them growing up, watching the games, getting to know the people. And I think to do well in this business, you have to sort of lose your fandom, but keep your curiosity. And I feel like that's kind of what the evolution has been like for me. I used to, as a kid, cheer hard for Nebraska. And since I started covering them, I would say it no longer ruins or makes my day if they win or lose a game, but the curiosity is always there. And so they've struggled on the field of late. But I would say for me, the passion is still there because the curiosity is still there. Why has it been this way? What can change? Who are some of the new players or coaches or characters that are coming into this thing that can maybe change that fortune moving forward? So I suppose there's just always been a curiosity about people, what makes them tick, but then also the sports side of things, or maybe the analytics side of things. What goes into the numbers? How do those numbers? How can they be predictive? How can they be illuminating? How does that change, or how does that fit into the ecosystem of whatever sport you're covering too? So I suppose that's what it is, and it really has felt to me. Like probably 98% of the time, it doesn't feel like work still. Like I'm just curious and go down a rabbit hole or talk to somebody that in another profession I wouldn't have the opportunity to talk to. So it's still, I think, for the most part, feels just fun and something that a lot of people probably wish they could do. And not that there isn't some hard work or some grinding that goes into it, some long hours on occasion, but it just feels like something that's still fun. And so that's why I got into it, and that's why I'm still into it now.
Awesome. Final question. Who would you say is your favorite sports writer in the business?
Well, I don't know that I have just one. And I feel like when I was in college, I got a good piece of advice from a student editor that just said, read as much as you can from as many different people as you can, and pick and choose based on that. And so I feel like I have made it a point to read a lot of folks at the local level, at the national level, and just try to kind of figure out, what do I like about this style of writing? What do I like about their voice? What do I want to maybe avoid with something that somebody else does? Or hey, here's an interesting idea that maybe I can apply. And so I'm always just fascinated. There's so much talent out there. There's so many different and creative ways to go about the craft that I feel like even now, I still want to read as much as I can. I don't feel like I have everything figured out by any means. I always want to continue to grow and evolve. So I suppose that would be the answer. It's just, there's so many talented folks out there. I want to grab little bits of advice and lessons from each one. And hopefully that makes my own writing better in the long run too.
Awesome.